Ted Bundy, the killer who defended himself in court and married a witness. He was so charming that a stranger dating him refused to believe he could be the same man appearing on the news. He escaped police custody twice, once by jumping through a window. During his own murder trial, he proposed marriage to a witness, made it legally binding on the spot, and the judge allowed it. Theodore Robert Bundy killed at least 30 women across multiple states throughout the mid-1970s, though he himself suggested the true number may have been considerably higher. Targeting young women, he approached using calculated, deliberately disarming tactics, specifically designed to exploit exactly the kind of social trust and sympathy his genuinely unremarkable, conventionally attractive appearance and confident, articulate demeanor allowed him to generate almost effortlessly. Bundy's specific approach frequently involved feigning injury or disability, wearing a fake cast or using crutches, then approaching young women in public locations specifically to ask for help carrying items to his car, a deliberately calculated tactic exploiting genuine social instincts toward sympathy and helpfulness that Bundy had apparently studied and refined with genuine chilling precision, allowing him to isolate victims through what appeared to any casual observer as an entirely ordinary, harmless interaction, rather than the calculated predatory approach it actually represented. What made Bundy genuinely, disturbingly effective at evading suspicion for as long as he did wasn't simply his calculated approach to selecting and isolating victims, but his broader social presentation. A law student with a documented history of active political involvement, including volunteer work for a Washington state gubernatorial campaign, who maintained genuine romantic relationships throughout the period of his murders, with several former partners later expressing genuine, documented disbelief upon learning of his eventual arrest and conviction, describing a man whose outward presentation matched nothing resembling the popular conception of a violent predator. Bundy was first arrested in 1975, not for murder, but for a traffic stop that led to the discovery of suspicious items in his vehicle, including handcuffs and a ski mask, evidence that, combined with subsequent investigation, eventually connected him to an earlier kidnapping victim who had survived and was able to identify him. While facing these charges and additional escalating suspicion connecting him to numerous unsolved disappearances across several states, Bundy was granted access to a courthouse law library as part of his ongoing legal defense preparation. A genuinely remarkable security lapse he exploited by jumping from a second-story window, successfully escaping custody for 6 days before being recaptured. Bundy's second, considerably more consequential escape occurred later the same year when he used a hacksaw blade to cut through the ceiling of his jail cell, losing a genuinely significant amount of weight beforehand specifically to fit through the resulting gap, and successfully evaded capture for over a month traveling to Florida, where, rather than remaining in hiding, he committed several additional murders within weeks of his escape, including a brutal, notably reckless attack on a Florida State University sorority house that killed 2 women and severely injured 2 others in a single night, a level of escalating recklessness that criminologists studying his case have generally interpreted as reflecting Bundy's deteriorating psychological control combined with a documented confidence, bordering on the delusional, in his own ability to continue evading capture indefinitely. Bundy was finally apprehended for the final time in February of 1978, and his subsequent trial for the Florida State University murders became one of the first American criminal trials broadcast on national television, drawing genuinely unprecedented public attention and media coverage, given both the horrific nature of the crimes and Bundy's own unusual, active participation in his defense, having made the decision to represent himself for significant portions of the proceedings, a choice that allowed him direct courtroom interaction with witnesses and legal proceedings that further fed the case's unusual, intense public fascination. In one of the trial's most genuinely bizarre moments, Bundy, during his own cross-examination of a witness named Carole Boone, a former co-worker who had maintained a relationship with him throughout the proceedings and continued to publicly maintain his innocence despite mounting evidence, formally proposed marriage to her in open court, and, exploiting an obscure element of Florida law recognizing a marriage as legally valid if declared before a judge with a witness present, the marriage was formally, legally recognized on the spot, a genuinely unprecedented moment even within the context of an already unusual, highly publicized trial. Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death, and spent nearly a decade on death row pursuing extensive appeals, during which he reportedly confessed to additional murders in exchange for temporary stays of execution, providing investigators with new information connecting him to previously unsolved disappearances, before ultimately being executed by electric chair in January of 1989, an execution that drew a genuinely notable public crowd outside the prison, some celebrating the outcome, reflecting the case's unusual, sustained cultural notoriety even a decade after his final capture. What makes Bundy's case endure as one of history's most significant and extensively studied instances of serial predation isn't simply the scale of his documented crimes, genuinely substantial as that toll remains, but the specific, unsettling demonstration his case provided regarding exactly how thoroughly conventional social trust, ordinary charm, and unremarkable outward presentation could be deliberately, calculatedly weaponized to evade suspicion and detection for years, a case that fundamentally reshaped how criminologists and investigators studying serial predation subsequently understood the genuine, documented gap between popular assumptions about how dangerous individuals present themselves and the far more mundane, socially unremarkable reality several of history's most prolific killers actually demonstrated. If stories like this, where the most dangerous people in history were often the ones least likely to raise anyone's suspicion, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history holds more stories like this than most people will ever know.